Hi, this is Ian Magaha, and we are taking a look at problem 6 in our midterm coding exam. So really what this problem wants us to do is it wants us to make a function called max underscore val that takes in t as an argument. Now t can be a tuple or a list, and each element of t is either an integer, a tuple, or a list. Also, sorry if I'm mispronouncing tuple. I think that's how it's pronounced, but if it's not, kind of embarrassing on my part. We also know that no tuple or list is empty, and overall, we just want this function to return the maximum integer in t, or recursively in an element of t. So just like with within the list of the list of whatever it is, we want the maximum value that is present. So obviously first we're going to start off, we're first within the function I want to initialize a variable called max val. It's going to be our maximum value within all the elements. And initially it's going to be 0 because we haven't, that's just our maximum value so far. So we're going to start this off with a for loop. So for each element in T, we're going to try to see if the element is greater than max value. And if it's true, if, the element's greater than max value, then the new max value will be the element. The reason that we're trying this is because if the element in T is not an integer, this will not work. You cannot compare a list or a tuple to the integer max value. It just won't work. And you can use this to your advantage because we're going to have this except. So for the case that the element is not an integer, we are going to recursively call the function again. So in the case where the element is not an integer, we're going to say if the max value is less than, we're going to recursively call the function. We're going to do the function max val, and then we're going to enter that element. And like, let's say the element is a list, and within that list is an integer. If we call this and we do the max value function for that element, which is a list, and there's an integer inside that list, then it will fetch us, the maximum value for that list, and we can compare the maximum value in our current loop to that new recursive function. And if the value returned from the recursively called function is greater than the max value that we have right now, then max value will be replaced. And so we loop through, going through each element. We go deeper and deeper at each element until we find an integer, and then we return that, whatever the biggest integer we found was, and then we compare that to our max value until we find one final max value that's correct. So let's see this in practice. Let me delete this your code here. We don't need that. So let's call it. So let's take a look at our t first, though. So our t is going to be 3 elements. So our t is going to be an integer 5, a list of 1 and 2, and then a tuple of 1 and 9. So, just obviously looking at this with our eyes, what's the biggest number there? It's 9. Okay, so we know that our maximum value should be 9. So let's run it, and look at that. Our maximum value is 9. But to kind of explain how this list t would work in our function, let's look at it. So we're gonna have a for loop, and our first element in t is just gonna be this integer 5. So obviously 5 is gonna be greater than 0. So now our maximum value is going to be 5. And then we're gonna go through the for loop again. Our second element is not an integer. So we are going to recursively call the function, and then within this list of 1 and 2, we're going to find that neither one of these are greater than our maximum value of 5. So we don't change the maximum value, and then we're going to go to the third element in t, which is this tuple of 1 and 9. We're going to, once again, this is not an integer, so we can't just compare it with maximum value. So we're going to use that except condition. We're going to recursively call the function again. We're going to go through and we're going to check each element in this list, and or in this tuple, not list, excuse me. And it's going to be 1 and 9. Obviously, 9 is bigger than our maximum value of 5. So it's going to change. Our maximum value is now 9. And then after all is said and done and we've looped through as many times as we need to, we're going to return the maximum value. And then whenever we print that out, it's going to print 9 for us. So our function is doing what we expect it to. I appreciate you watching, and I'll be right back to talk about problem 7.